If someone starts a conversation about psychopaths, like I'm doing right now, you might think of someone you might have met, if you think you've met one. Psychopaths compose about 1% of the population, so the odds you've met one are almost certain. But if they were clever enough to hide their psychopathy from you, then your next reference might be popular culture. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs was a notorious character for being proper, polite, and intelligent, and also for eating human flesh. Ooh, so scary. A ruthless killer who needed to be imprisoned for life, for he certainly will kill again given the opportunity. If that reference is a little too old for you, then you might instead think about the more internet-friendly Patrick Bateman, a subject of endless memeing, a jocular, assertive, good-looking guy obsessed with physical appearance, materialism, and status. Bret Easton Ellis wrote the novel American Psycho in 1991 and encapsulated the feel of high society New York in the 1980s. But what he probably didn't realize at the time was that he also did a superb job of personifying the corporate psychopath. In fact, the field of psychology wouldn't catch up with him until around 1995, when Paul Babiak published a paper called When Psychopaths Go to Work, a case study of an industrial psychopath. The research didn't intensify until the 2010s, after the 2008 financial crash happened, and people funding the research wanted potential explanations on why it had happened. Up till then, the science had focused on the most extreme cases, people unable to hold back their worst impulses, compelled, as if by some other force, to break every law of society. This, however, was just one type of psychopath, the type that gets caught. All that science knew about psychopaths had been gathered using data from prisoners or patients in mental hospitals. The flawed methodology led them to conclude that all psychopaths have unsuccessful lives, but these subjects that formed the theory was a skewed sample. The successful psychopath has similar personality characteristics, but doesn't have the typical progression of antisocial behavior and deviant lifestyle. In an organization undergoing chaotic change, say a rapidly growing, successful Fortune 500 company, the psychopath could effectively use their skills of manipulation, charm, and confidence to climb the corporate ladder. Babiak's research found that these corporate psychopaths gravitate towards organizations where they can gain power, money, and prestige. They're highly manipulative and charm their way into positions far above their ability and qualifications. It became a recurring theme where corporate psychopaths would quickly get in over their heads in terms of the actual business and leadership skills one needs to function at that level. Eventually, the cracks form and the incompetence shows, but only after the company has been completely ruined, the cumulative result of bad business decisions, poor morale, high staff turnover, and reduced productivity. Unlike the petty, compulsive criminals or hot-headed, physically violent offenders, they're able to mask their antisocial traits and present themselves positively. And the hiring specialists and high-level executive staff are completely fooled. These opportunities were fueled by the new corporate culture of the 1980s, the result of takeovers and mergers accelerated by globalization and rapidly changing technology, and caused a disintegration of corporate stability. Jobs for life in business, common up to this point, disappeared and employee commitment lessened accordingly, with job switching become the norm, leading to employees finding themselves working for unfamiliar organizations and with people they didn't know. Rapid career movements made it difficult to associate corporate successes with any one particular manager. People with the loudest voice and the best political skills could claim the success, laying a foundation where corporate psychopaths could thrive with their skill set. Senior-level salaries skyrocketed with intentions of attracting the best talent, but it also motivated the charmers and the liars up the corporate ladder, and this became the career path of the corporate psychopath. They hide among the more sincere hard workers because they are difficult to spot unless you're paying close attention over a long period of time. They take advantage of people, steal, take credit for other people's work, and along with that, ways for them to express their monstrous impulses that were acceptable in corporate culture at the time. Verbal manipulation, bullying, and schemes where the corporate psycho would disgrace or outright destroy the lives of coworkers they didn't like. Back in the 1980s, however, Bret Easton Ellis was already well acquainted with the corporate psychopath. From Los Angeles, he moved to New York and met up with some friends of friends, Wall Street executives in their mid-20s, as part of his research for his book, which originally was just going to be a standard thriller about a Wall Street executive dealing with the threat of a serial killer. But once he wrote it, it became a very different story, told from the killer's perspective. The American Psycho movie is great, as good of an adaptation as you can hope for, but I really do love the book. You tag along with these asshole executives as they romp across New York, complaining about everything in their little cliques, drinking, doing drugs at every opportunity, and gossiping about one another. The author establishes early on that the narrator, Patrick Bateman, does everything he can to fit in, imitating their attitudes, copying their expensive tastes in food and clothing. He observes, categorizes, and files it all away, and feels pangs of anxiety when he gets outclassed or misses some small detail. It's evident something is off with these guys from the very first page, but you can really see Bateman's psychopathic traits the first time he goes in to his office job. My secretary, Jean, who is in love with me, and who I will probably end up marrying, sits at her desk this morning. To get my attention as usual, is wearing something improbably expensive and completely inappropriate. A Chanel cashmere cardigan, a cashmere crew neck, and a cashmere scarf, faux pearl earrings, wool crepe pants from Barney's. I pull my Walkman off from around my neck as I approach her desk. She looks up and smiles shyly. Late, she asks. Aerobics class. I play it cool. Sorry. Any messages? Ricky Hendricks had to cancel today, she says. He didn't say what it was he's canceling or why. I occasionally box with Ricky at the Harvard Club, I explain. Anyone else? And Spencer wants to meet you for a drink at Flutie's, Pier 17, she says, smiling. When, I ask. After 6. Negative, I tell her as I walk into my office. Cancel it. She gets up from behind her desk and follows me in. Oh, and what should I say, she asks, amused. Just say no, I tell her, taking my Armani overcoat off and hanging it on the Alex Loeb coat rack I bought at Bloomingdale's. Just say no, she repeats. Did you see the Patty Winters show this morning, I ask, on autism? No, she smiles as if somehow charmed by my addiction to the Patty Winters show. How was it? I pick up this morning's Wall Street Journal and scan the front page. All of it one ink-stained, senseless typeset blur. I think I was hallucinating while watching it. I don't know. I can't be sure. I don't remember, I murmur, placing the journal back down and then picking up today's Financial Times. I really don't know. She just stands there waiting for instructions. I sigh and place my hands together, sitting down at the Palazzetti glass-top desk, the halogen lamps on both sides already burning. Okay, Jean, I start. I need reservations for 3 at Camel's at 12:30, and if not there, try crayons, all right? Yes, sir, she says in a jokey tone, and then turns to leave. Oh, wait, I say, remembering something, and I need reservations for 2 at Arcadia around 8 tonight. She turns around, her face falling slightly, but still smiling. Oh, something romantic? No, silly, forget it, I tell her. I'll make them, thanks. I'll do it, she says. No, I say, waving her off. Be a doll and just get me a Perrier, okay? You look nice today, she says before leaving. She's right, but I'm not saying anything, just staring across the office at the George Stubbs painting that hangs on the wall, wondering if I should move it, thinking maybe it's too close to the Iowa AM/FM stereo receiver and the dual cassette recorder and the semi-automatic belt drive turntable, the graphic equalizer, the matching bookshelf speakers, all in twilight blue to match the color scheme of the office. The Stubbs painting should probably go over the life-size Doberman that's in the corner, $700 at Beauty and the Beast in Trump Tower. Or maybe it would look better over at the Pacrizini antique table that sits next to the Doberman. I get up and move all these sporting magazines from the 40s. They cost me $30 a piece, that I bought at Funchies, Bunkers, Gax, and Gleeks. And then I lift the Stubbs painting off the wall and balance it on the table and then sit back at my desk and fiddle with the pencils I keep in a vintage German beer stein I got from Antiques. The Stubbs looks good in either place. A reproduction Black Forest umbrella stand, $675 at Hubert de Forges, sits in another corner without. I'm just noticing any umbrellas in it. I put a Paul Butterfield tape in the cassette player, sit back at the desk, and flip through last week's Sports Illustrated, but can't concentrate. I keep thinking about that damn tanning bed Van Patten has, and I move to pick up the phone and buzz Jean. Yes, she answers. Jean, listen, keep your eyes open for a tanning bed, okay? What? She asks, incredulously, I'm sure, but she's still probably smiling. You know, a tanning bed, I repeat casually. For, tan? Okay, she says hesitantly. Anything else? And, oh shit, yeah, remind me to return the videotapes I rented last night back to the store. I start to open and close the sterling silver cigar holder that sits by the phone. Anything else, she asks, and then flirtatiously, how about that Perrier? Yeah, that sounds good. And Jean? Yes, she says, and I'm relieved by her patience. You don't think I'm crazy, I ask. I mean, for wanting a tanning bed? There's a pause, and then, well, it is a little unusual, she admits, and I can tell she's choosing her words very carefully. But no, of course not. I mean, how else are you going to keep up that devilishly handsome skin tone? Good girl, I say before hanging up. I have a great secretary. She comes into the office 5 minutes later with the Perrier, a wedge of lime, and the ransom file, which she did not need to bring, and I am vaguely touched by her almost total devotion to me. I can't help but be flattered. You have a table at Camel's at 12:30, she announces as she pours the Perrier into a glass tumbler. Non-smoking section. Don't wear that outfit again, I say, looking her over quickly. Thanks for the ransom file. She stalls, about to hand me the Perrier and asks, What? I didn't hear you, before setting the drink on my desk. I said, and I repeat myself calmly, grinning, do not wear that outfit again. Wear a dress. A skirt or something. She stands there, only a little stunned, and after she looks down at herself, she smiles like some kind of cretin. You don't like this, I take it? She says humbly. Come on, I say, sipping my Perrier. You're prettier than that. Thanks, Patrick, she says sarcastically, though I bet tomorrow she'll be wearing a dress. The phone on her desk rings. I tell her I'm not here. She turns to leave. And high heels, I mention. I like high heels. She shakes her head good-naturedly as she exits, shutting my door behind her. I take out a Panasonic pocket watch with a 3-inch diagonal color TV and an AM/FM radio and try to find something to watch, hopefully Jeopardy, before turning to my computer terminal. I've seen some criticism of this story about how Patrick or any of his friends never seem to do any work. They think Patrick doesn't have to do anything for his job, but that's not it. The point is he's supposed to be working. Jean gives him the ransom file, and he outright ignores it. He just never does any work, and he can always get away with it by sweet-talking his boss and taking credit for other people's work. Now, the whole reason I started doing this research was when I came across the study from 2025 called Dating App Users, Interpersonal Styles, and Self-Reported Mating Success, that asserted that men high in psychopathy report significantly more mating success via dating apps. Do with that information what you will. When I dug into the research, as it turns out, sexual promiscuity is specifically listed as a psychopathic trait, part of their need for constant stimulation and excitement in having new partners. A book by Thomas Erickson called Surrounded by Psychopaths gives a great list of psychopathic traits of someone you might encounter in an office setting. Glib, superficial charm. High self-estimation. Lack of remorse or guilt. Lack of empathy. Pathological lying. Cunning and manipulative. Shallow affect, fake emotional responses. Impulsive, poor behavior control. Easily offended, gets violent or verbally abusive. Needs stimulation or excitement. Sexually promiscuous. Irresponsible. Extreme behavior problems in their youth. Belief that the rules do not apply to them. Breaks parole. Parasitic lifestyle. Borrows or gets others to pay. Lacks long-term goals. Lives in the present. Never accepts responsibility. Criminally versatile. Curious and experiments with different crimes. The corporate psychopath learns that some of these traits will get him in trouble. So in pursuit of their goal of career success and the money and power that comes with it, they hide them. They learn what people want and so present as alert, friendly, easy to get along with and to talk to. To a casual observer, they seem reasonably skilled, emotionally well-adjusted, rational, likable, and personally attractive. They blend in well to business culture, persuasive and fun to be around. In job interviews, they respond with answers that appear to demonstrate healthy ambitions, warmth towards friends and family, and loyalty. They present as intelligent, as successful, and accomplished, thus desirable employees. Once on board a company, corporate psychopaths can quickly reach senior levels of the hierarchy because they lack any conscience in making ruthless decisions in pursuit of profits, and they can handle tremendous responsibility effortlessly with exceptional confidence. They are also capable of manipulating people into doing what they want. We can see this in American Psycho, where Patrick calls Patricia, but she's on the other line, and so she says she'll call him right back. After 10 minutes of stretching, the phone rings, and I wait 6 rings to answer it. Hi, she says, it's me, Patricia. Can you hold on? I've got another call. Oh, sure, she says. I put her on hold for 2 minutes, then get back on the line. Hi, I say. Sorry. That's okay. So, dinner, I say. Stop by my place around 8. Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, she says slowly. Oh no, I moan. What is it? Well, see, it's like this, she begins. There's this concert at Radio City, and... No, I tell her adamantly. No music. But my ex-boyfriend, the keyboardist from Sarah Lawrence, he's in the backup band, and... She stops, as if she has already decided to protest my decision. No. Patricia, I tell her firmly, thinking to myself, damn it, why this problem? Why tonight? Oh, Patrick, she whines on the phone, it'll be so much fun. I am now fairly sure that the odds of having sex with Patricia this evening are quite good, but not if we attend a concert in which her ex-boyfriend, there is no such thing with Patricia, is in the backup band. I don't like concerts, I tell her, walking into the kitchen. I open the refrigerator and take out a liter of Evian. I don't like concerts, I say again. I don't like live music. But this one isn't like the others, she lamely adds. We have good seats. Listen, there's no need to argue, I say. If you want to go, go. But I thought we were going to be together, she says, straining for emotion. I thought we were going to have dinner, and then, almost definitely an afterthought, be together, the two of us. I know, I say. Listen, we should all be allowed to do exactly what we want to do. I want you to do what you want to do. She pauses and tries a new angle. His music is so beautiful, so... I know it sounds corny, but it's glorious. The band is one of the best you'll ever see. They're funny and wonderful, and the music is so great, and oh gosh, I just want you to see them so badly. We'll have a great time, I guarantee it, she says with dripping earnestness. No, you go, I say. You have a good time. Patrick, she says, I have 2 tickets. No, I don't like concerts, I say. Live music bugs me. Well, she says, and her voice sounds genuinely tinged with maybe real disappointment. I'll feel bad that you're not there with me. I say go and have a good time, and screw the cap of the Evian bottle, timing my next move. Don't worry, I'll just go to Dorsia alone then. It's okay. There's a very long pause that I'm able to translate into, right, now see if you want to go to that lousy fucking concert. I take a large gulp of Evian, waiting for her to tell me what time she'll be over. Dorsia, she asks, and then suspiciously, you have reservations there? I mean, for us? Yes, I say, 8:30. Well, she emits a little laugh, and then faltering, what I mean is, I've seen them. I just wanted you to see them. Listen, what are you doing? I ask. If you're not coming, I have to call someone else. Do you have Emily Hamilton's number? Oh, now, Patrick, don't be rash, she giggles nervously. They're playing 2 more nights so I can see them tomorrow. Listen, calm down, okay? Okay, I say, I'm calm. Now what time should I be over? Restaurant whore asks. I said 8, I tell her, disgusted. That's fine, she says, then in a seductive whisper, see you at 8. She lingers on the phone as if she expects me to say something else, as if maybe I should congratulate her for making the correct decision, but I hardly have time to deal with this, so I abruptly hang up. The instant after I hang up on Patricia, I dash across the room and grab the Zagat guide and flip through it until I find Dorsia. With trembling fingers, I dial the number. Busy. Panicked, I put the phone on constant redial. For the next 5 minutes, nothing but a busy signal, faithful and ominous, repeats itself across the line. Finally, a ring, and in the seconds before there's an answer, I experience that rarest of occurrences, an adrenaline rush. Dorcia, someone answers, sex not easily identifiable, made androgynous by the wall of sound noise in the background. Please hold. It sounds slightly less noisy than a packed football stadium, and it takes every ounce of courage I can muster to stay on the line and not hang up. I'm on hold for 5 minutes, my palms sweaty, sore from clenching the cordless phone so tightly, a fraction of me realizing the futility of the effort. Another part hopeful, another fraction pissed off that I didn't make the reservations earlier or get Jean to. The voice comes back on the line and says gruffly, "Dorcia." I clear my throat. Yes, I know it's a little late, but is it possible to reserve a table for 2 at 8:30 or 9 perhaps? I'm asking this with both eyes shut tight. There is a pause. The crowd in the background, a surging, deafening mass, and with real hope coursing through me, I open my eyes, realizing that the maitre d', God love him, is probably looking through the reservation book for a cancellation. But then he starts giggling, low at first, but it builds to a high-pitched crescendo of laughter, which is abruptly cut off when he slams down the receiver. He actually still tries going to Dorcia, and it's pretty funny. So a lot of this confidence the corporate psychopath has seems to come from unusual brain structure, lacking gray matter in key areas of the brain. It's been well established that psychopaths demonstrate a lack of amygdala response, which is involved most notably in fear and gives them infallible confidence. One study examined gray matter volumes in brain images between male individuals with high and low Dark Triad scores. I'm going to talk more about the Dark Triad traits later, but all you need to know for now are that psychopaths score high in these 3 traits, namely narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. The study found alterations in brain regions associated with empathy and social cognition, reduced gray matter volumes in precentral gyrus extending to the dorsolateral frontal gyrus, and cerebellar crust 2, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and anterior cingulate cortex. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is thought to be used in working memory, cognitive flexibility, planning and risk-taking, and moral decision-making. This could not only explain the impulsive, irresponsible, or immoral decision-making of psychopaths, but also cognitive deficits that could potentially give them difficulties doing their job even if they wanted to do the work, which they don't. The anterior cingulate cortex is associated with error detection, attention, motivation, and also social evaluation. While the confidence and charm that get them to the executive level are doubtlessly helpful in many facets of their job, the problems with psychopaths in powerful positions becomes more apparent on closer examination. A study of a corporate psychopath CEO helped clarify the importance of leadership, shedding light on just how badly they seem to lack in leadership skills. The study concluded that leadership is the single most important issue leading to problems. Leadership directly affects the performance of teams, as well as the well-being of the team members. Despite being highly career-oriented and having some useful skills, it can't compensate for their unethical behavior and abuse of subordinates. Another study shed light on the specific problems this causes. Subordinates were not allowed to question or challenge them on anything. Fear, abuse, and bullying were consistently reported, and employees felt disempowered with low job satisfaction, who inevitably withdrew from their work and eventually leave the organization in what became a predictable pattern. Still other studies measured just how prevalent the corporate psychopaths were. A study by forensic psychologist Nathan Brooks looked at 251 corporate professionals and discovered that 21% of them had clinically significant levels of psychopathic traits, which, interestingly, is equivalent to the occurrence of psychopathic traits in the prison population. The study concluded that recruiters look too much at a person's resume and achievements and not enough at their personality. A more holistic examination of executive-level applicants is a suggested solution to ensure they don't get into positions in the first place. A more specific examination of which business sectors the corporate psychopaths are attracted to found that government and financial sectors have the highest rates. It's theorized this is because these sectors have the lowest requirements in terms of corporate social responsibility and are the least likely to do business in a socially desirable manner, and the least likely to be seen as doing business in a way that shows commitment to employees. Corporate psychopathy causes massive amounts of suffering and can potentially cost businesses billions of dollars every year. The contradiction, though, is that our culture glorifies and rewards leaders with psychopathic traits. Men who score high fit the archetype of being dominant, fearless, aggressive, and egocentric. Women high in psychopathy, by the way, are quite different in how their traits manifest. They seem more unconventional, rebellious, and defy social norms. As such, I wasn't able to find any presence of women corporate psychopaths. Because the psychopathy manifests so differently, most studies exclusively look at men, so I'm not trying to exclude women. All I could find was that their strategies are more subtle, with manipulation manifesting as flirtation, but yeah, nothing really substantial that I can talk to you about. One study found 35% of all bullying at work was associated with the presence of corporate psychopaths, while another found bullying at work was less than monthly, where corporate psychopaths were not present, while it was more than weekly when corporate psychopaths were present. Toxic and unethical leadership seems to lead to a corporate culture of bad behavior, leading to subordinates learning that this is normal, acceptable behavior. As a result of employee anger, anxiety, and depression due to the presence of the toxic work environment, it leads to counterproductive work behavior, where employees sabotage one another and deliberately slow the productivity of other coworkers. Ignoring conflict and bullying perpetuates it and facilitates it. The psychopathic mindset becomes the culture. Colleagues treat each other as objects to be exploited. The company is a vehicle to help them attain power and wealth. At the same time, psychopaths are master of disguise and often put up facades of being a good friend when it suits them, or playing favorites to pit people against one another. They exploit people under them and create chaos to cover up their misdeeds. They aren't afraid to manipulate others' emotions, including simulating emotions to mislead others, such as getting them to believe they may have behaved inappropriately, in order to change their behavior in a way that suits the corporate psychopath. Psychopaths are also unlikely to experience negative emotions directed towards themselves. They are unconcerned what others think of them. They may use emotional tools for flattery and delight in misfortune of others. They engage in heinous crimes because they have no internal sense of right and wrong. A strong signal someone is a corporate psychopath is if they signal other people to change their behavior, but rarely change their own behavior. While they don't experience emotions normally, it's important to remember they are skillful at reading them. You can see this in American Psycho, where Pat is waiting for a meeting to start along with McDermott. I smile, raising my eyebrows at McDermott, who suddenly takes the seat next to mine. He sighs and opens a newspaper, silently reading. Since he hasn't offered a hello or a good morning, I can tell he's pissed off, and I suspect it has something to do with me. Finally, sensing that Lewis is about to ask something, I turn to McDermott. So, McDermott, what's wrong? I smirk. Long line at the Stairmaster this morning? Who said anything's wrong? He asks, sniffing, turning pages in the Financial Times. Listen, I tell him, leaning in. I already apologized about yelling at you because of the pizza at Pastel's the other night. Who said it was about that? He asks tensely. I thought we already cleared this up, I whisper, gripping the arm of his chair, smiling over at Thompson. I'm sorry I insulted the pizza at Pastel's. Happy? Who said it's about that? He asks again. Then what is it, McDermott? I whisper, noticing movement behind me. I count to 3, then whirl around, catching Lewis leaning towards me, trying to eavesdrop. He knows he's been caught and sinks slowly back into his chair, guilty. McDermott, this is ridiculous, I whisper. You can't stay angry at me because I think the pizza at Pastel's is crusty. Brittle, he says, shooting me a glance. The word you used was brittle. I apologize, I say, but I'm right. It is. You read the review in the Times, right? Here, he reaches into his pocket and hands me a Xeroxed article. I just wanted to prove you wrong. Read this. What is it? I ask, opening the folded page. It's an article on your hero, Donald Trump, McDermott grins. It sure is, I say apprehensively. Why didn't I ever see this, I wonder? And McDermott scans the article and points an accusatory finger at the bottom paragraph, which he's highlighted in red ink. Where does Donald Trump think the best pizza in Manhattan is served? Let me read this, I sigh, waving him away. You might be wrong. What a lousy photo. Bateman, look. I circled it, he says. I pretend to read the fucking article, but I'm getting very angry, and I have to hand the article back to McDermott and ask, thoroughly annoyed, "So what? What does it mean? What are you, McDermott, trying to tell me?" "What do you think of the pizza at Pastel's now, Bateman?" he asks smugly. "Well," I say, choosing my words carefully, "I think I have to go back and retaste the pizza." I'm saying this through gritted teeth. "I'm just suggesting that the last time I was there, the pizza was..." "Brittle?" McDermott offers. "Yeah," I shrug. "Brittle." "Uh-huh." McDermott smiles, triumphant. Thomas Erickson's book that I mentioned earlier, Surrounded by Psychopaths, really does a good job of emphasizing the risks a person is facing by working with a corporate psychopath. Psychopaths can get revenge on you while circumventing you completely by pitting other people against you. They have a strong intuitive sense of what people need and are very capable of playing fake friendships like a game. People who might respect confidence might be particularly vulnerable. They might compliment someone for something they are usually criticized for. They get to know what personality traits you're sensitive about and make you feel self-conscious or guilty at critical moments. Eventually, they can trick you into behaving differently, and that can make your real friends get suspicious, and over a long enough time begin to isolate you from other people. They might control a person for the sake of controlling them, or they might start to exploit them for money or favors. They can gaslight, use passive-aggressive behaviors, or use pressure sales tactics to force decisions on a short time frame. The key thing to remember is that a true psychopath is incapable of caring about you, that you are simply prey to them. Although these corporate psychopaths became apparent in the 1980s, the reality is they've always been around. Many of them just might be at the highest echelons of power right now. I'm going to list some famous people reported to be psychopathic. This isn't my opinion, I'm just reporting what I've read in the literature. And as usual, my references are in the notes down below. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, was notorious for being picky and difficult to work with. He denied paternity of his own daughter, and then when paternity tests were done, doubted the reliability of the tests. His story is a success story, though, because Apple thrived when he was CEO and then floundered when they pushed him out. The company made a comeback after he returned, but the researcher concluded that he was much more effective as a founder than as a CEO. So again, this comes back to leadership problems. But he did have a charm and a drive that carried his company forward. Uber's founder and former CEO, Travis Kalanick, also had a reputation for being difficult to work with. In 2014, he fought with the media over allegations of female Uber passengers being sexually assaulted and combated journalist critics. After a series of scandals, things culminated in a leaked video of the CEO berating a driver who questioned the company's policy over pay, and he was removed. John D. Rockefeller. So self-righteous, he claimed, "God gave me my money." He masterminded a conspiracy in 1671 with the railroads to double the price of transporting oil for all producers except his cartel. Henry Clay Frick was a manufacturing magnate in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Frick's private militia of 300 Pinkertons fired on a crowd of striking steelworkers and their families, then had them evicted from company-owned houses, blacklisted them, and tried them for murder. Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, ran a secret police who spied on employees. He had his own private army to deter union organizers. He cheated on his wife with his teenage assistant and then had her marry his chauffeur to use as a cover. Walt Disney, a name everyone on Earth is familiar with, underpaid his workers, clashed with labor organizing efforts, and made anti-Semitic smears about other Hollywood studio heads. Mickey Mouse's real creator, Ub Iwerks, was denied recognition and was allegedly his oldest friend. He spied for J. Edgar Hoover and worked with Senator Joseph McCarthy in the 1960s. So the more recent research in psychopathy talks more in terms of dark triad traits that I mentioned earlier. The first trait is Machiavellianism, or the need to scheme, accrue power, and dominate over others. I did see some other papers discussing Machiavellianism as to whether it should be even listed as a separate trait, or if it should be completely tied into psychopathy, so there's still some debate there. Definitely some of the research I read has Machiavellianism and psychopathy hand in hand in a lot of the findings, So things still might shuffle again, who knows. Psychopathy as a personality trait specifically refers to antisocial behavior, impulsiveness, lack of empathy, and selfishness. Narcissism is a trait that gets talked about all the time, characterized by self-aggrandizement, pride, and feelings of superiority and importance over other people. Like many other mental disorders, psychopathy is much more being viewed as a spectrum of severity, and people we would consider psychopaths would be high in all three of these traits. But it's now discussed with much more nuance, and also a recognition that even though a person might not be diagnosed as a psychopath, they still might have some level of these personality traits. For example, one study I found explored how willing people would be to participate in a purge-like hypothetical day where all crimes would be legal. The study found 18% of participants would be willing to participate in the purge, and those individuals exhibited higher psychopathic traits and lower self-control. Since 1% of the population are thought to be clinically psychopathic, this demonstrates that perhaps many more people have subclinical or varying levels of traits we associate with psychopaths. In another study, spiritual well-being was assessed and found to be negatively associated with psychopathy, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and particularly sadism. I've talked about spirituality in another video, but Dark Triad traits seem to inversely predict a person's spirituality. Another study examined how psychopathy, narcissism, and fear of missing out influence online political participation, along with cognitive ability. Interestingly, higher cognitive ability is uniformly associated with lower levels of online political participation, and the highest levels of participation were not only associated with lower cognitive ability, but also higher psychopathy. Similarly, another study of online aggression found that all three Dark Triad traits positively correlate with trolling propensity, whereas trait emotional intelligence was an inhibiting factor that reduced trolling. So I think this is good motivation to stop arguing with people online, because the people you will be arguing with are not only more likely to have Dark Triad traits, but they are also more likely to be less intelligent. This might have been apparent to you already, but the science confirms it. A study of social media addiction involving the Big Five personality traits and Dark Triad traits showed that neuroticism, low conscientiousness, extroversion, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy were the strongest predictors of being addicted to social media. One really interesting study, based in Pakistan, examined the relationship between the Dark Triad personality traits, sexual preoccupation, and male objectification of women. Sexual preoccupation is a personality trait where an individual has persistent sexual thoughts and behaviors, and is so extreme that it often leads to personal and legal problems. These thoughts lead them to frequently engage in sexual behaviors and commit offenses. Objectification, like it sounds, is when someone treats someone else like an object, focused solely on physical traits. We don't accuse people of objectifying a ruler, for example, because the ruler only has physical traits, and not personality, emotions, intellect, and awareness. Objectification of women often demonstrates a lack of empathy and derogatory comments, and although anyone can objectify anyone else, women tend to be significantly impacted by objectification from men. So the study, it found a significant relationship between Dark Triad traits and men's objectification of women, but a negative correlation between those Dark Triad traits and sexual preoccupation trait. Specifically, there was no correlation between narcissism and Machiavellianism with sexual preoccupation, but psychopathy was negatively correlated with sexual preoccupation. So it's interesting to note that psychopaths are not sexually preoccupied, but it's tied more to the sexual promiscuity I discussed earlier, where it's the thrill of novelty, stimulation seeking without it being exclusively sexual. Or maybe it could be more along the lines of breaking social norms, or maybe about control and power. Men who are sexually preoccupied, as it turns out, not only scored low in psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism, but also scored low in men's objectification of women, which was a surprising finding. This is an area they plan to explore in future research, because the general assumption for a long time was that sexual preoccupation was rooted in objectification, but clearly there's something else going on. One study asked the question whether people with Dark Triad traits actually want to change their personalities, and if so, would they be able to do it? While they found that training to improve a person's agreeableness did indeed lower their Dark Triad traits, the vast majority of people actually didn't want to lose those Dark Triad traits because they see them as an advantage, particularly with narcissism and psychopathy. However, in having these traits is embedded the idea that they are superior to others and lack empathy to understand others. So by definition, it makes sense that they wouldn't want to be like anybody else. There was a very recent study of Dark Triad traits, along with short-form video addiction. The study found that people who score high in Machiavellianism and psychopathy are more prone to short video addiction due to a lack of what's called future time perspective, which is attending to thoughts about the future, the ability to foresee, anticipate, and plan for future desired outcomes. People scoring high in narcissism didn't show this effect. So if you're in a situation where you need to deal with a corporate psychopath, what can you do? For starters, you need to confirm that their behaviors are actually psychopathic. For example, a dominant boss can come across as having some psychopathic traits, but a dominant boss also works very hard. So while a psychopath will spend that time socializing, learning people's weaknesses, and strategizing to offload work onto other people. Psychopaths are different from generally sociable people because of their attitude towards lying. They won't lie for the purposes of impressing people, but they will lie simply for the joy of getting away with it, and to confirm in their mind how gullible other people are. They have no remorse or empathy, and do not get stressed out about things that would stress a normal person out. Psychopaths tend to use a lot of the same techniques to control people. Arbitrary positive reinforcement, or love bombing, and then they withhold it arbitrarily. Turning things around to make every argument about you. Silent treatment, pressure tactics, controlling you for the sake of control. Identifying the pattern of behavior involves a process of conscious reflection, thinking about how they're behaving in the present, really scrutinizing their individual actions. Psychiatrist Dr. Andrews says you should understand they always prioritize personal advantage. So if you work with a psychopath, what you can try to do is try to align what's in their interest with the company interests. That can help you to get them on side. If you're working under one, be sure to know your own weaknesses that they might try to use to manipulate you. Keep communication open with other colleagues as much as you can so the psychopath can't isolate you. If you're managing them, try to get them on side rather than exerting authority or power over them. You might want to try pairing them with someone else with opposing traits who can complement the skills that they have. Place value on process, openness, and honesty. It makes things more difficult for the psychopath to blend in with more ethically aligned work culture. Organizations should always thoroughly investigate employees before promoting someone who has a large disparity between their self-ratings and other coworkers' ratings of them. You can also spend time studying their facial expressions for sincerity, as they are only able to imitate many emotions, but they cannot actually experience them. Here's the short list in coping with psychopaths at work. Suspect flattery. Outrageous and obviously untrue flattery is an attempt to draw you in. Labels and titles aren't everything. Just because they sound important doesn't mean their moral judgment is better than yours. Always question authority when it conflicts with your moral code. Never help a suspected psychopath conceal their suspicious activities. If you're afraid of them, don't confuse that with respect. Realistically assess the damage to your life. If things are becoming serious, you may have to leave to salvage what you can. I want to conclude with one more bit from American Psycho. This is close to the end of the book, after most of the craziest stuff has already happened, and he's on a date with his secretary, Jean. Unlike the movie, in the book she never finds out how crazy he really is. And when I read it, keep in mind how badly he treated her back in the office during the first quote I read out of the book. He bullied her, criticized her, and ridiculed her appearance. She gives him a line, "We need to talk," and then while she is talking, his mind wanders in an internal monologue. Where there was nature and earth, life and water, I saw a desert landscape that was unending, resembling some sort of crater, so devoid of reason and light and spirit that the mind could not grasp it on any sort of conscious level. And if you came close, the mind would reel backward, unable to take it in. It was a vision so clear and real and vital to me that in its purity it was almost abstract. This was what I could understand. This was how I lived my life, what I constructed my movement around, how I dealt with the tangible. This was the geography around which my reality revolved. It did not occur to me, ever, that people were good, or that man was capable of change, or that the world could be a better place through one's taking pleasure in feeling, or a look or a gesture, of receiving another person's love or kindness. Nothing was affirmative. The term generosity of spirit applied to nothing, was a cliché, was some kind of bad joke. Sex is mathematics. Individuality no longer an issue. What does intelligence signify? Define reason. Desire, meaningless. Intellect is not a cure. Justice is dead. Fear, recrimination, innocence, sympathy, guilt, waste, failure, grief were things, emotions, that no one really felt anymore. Reflection is useless. The world is senseless. Evil is its only permanence. God is not alive. Love cannot be trusted. Surface, surface, surface was all that anyone found meaning in. This was civilization as I saw it, colossal and jagged. And then what Jean is saying cuts in. And I don't remember who it was you were talking to. It doesn't matter. What does is that you were very forceful, yet very sweet, and I guess I knew then that... She places her spoon down, but I'm not watching her. I'm looking out at the taxis moving up Broadway, yet they can't stop things from unraveling, because Jean says the following. A lot of people seem to have... She stops, continues hesitantly, lost touch with life, and I don't want to be among them. After the waiter clears her dish, she adds, I don't want to get bruised. I think I'm nodding. I've learned what it's like to be alone, and I think I'm in love with you. She says the last part quickly, forcing it out. Almost superstitiously, I turn toward her, sipping an Evian water, then without thinking, say, smiling, I love someone else. As if this film has speeded up, she laughs immediately, looks quickly away, down, embarrassed. Well, sorry. Gosh. But, I add quietly, you shouldn't be afraid. She looks back up at me, swollen with hope. Something can be done about it, I say. Then, not knowing why I'd said that, I modify the statement, telling her straight on. Maybe something can't. I don't know. I've thrown away a lot of time to be with you, so it's not like I don't care. She nods mutely. You should never mistake affection for passion, I warn her. It can be not good. It can get you into, trouble. She's not saying anything, and I can suddenly see her sadness, flat and calm, like a daydream. What are you trying to say? She asked, lamely, blushing. Nothing. I'm just letting you know that appearances can be deceiving. She stares at the Times stacked in heavy folds on the table. A breeze barely causes it to flutter. Why are you telling me this? Tactfully, almost touching her hand but stopping myself, I tell her, I just want to avoid any future misconnections. A hard body walks by. I notice her, then take a look back at Jean. Oh, come on, don't look that way. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not, she says, trying to act casual. I just want to know if you're disappointed in me for admitting this. How could she ever understand that there isn't any way I could be disappointed, since I no longer find anything worth looking forward to? You don't know much about me, do you? I ask teasingly. I know enough, she says, her initial response, but then she shakes her head. Oh, let's just drop this. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. In the next instant, she changes her mind. I want to know more, she says, gravely. I consider this before asking. Are you sure? Patrick, she says breathlessly, I know my life would be much emptier without you in it. I consider this too, nodding thoughtfully. And I just can't. She stops, frustrated. I can't pretend these feelings don't exist, can I? Shh. And then he goes into another internal monologue. This is the one that's split into the one that bookends the very start and end of the movie. It's awesome, but if you've seen the film, you already know it. And if you haven't seen the film, well, go see it or read the book. Next he says, I'm asking Jean, how many people in this world are like me? She pauses, carefully answers, I don't think anyone. She's guessing. Let me rephrase the... Wait, how does my hair look? I ask, interrupting myself. Fine. Okay, let me rephrase the question. I take a sip of her dry beer. Okay, why do you like me, I ask. She asks back, why? Yes, I say, why? Well, a drop of beer has fallen onto my polo shirt. She hands me her napkin, a practical gesture that touches me. You're concerned with others, she says tentatively. That's a very rare thing in what, she stops again, is, I guess, a hedonistic world. This is... Patrick, you're embarrassing me. She shakes her head, closing her eyes. Go on, I urge. Please, I want to know. You're sweet, she rolls her eyes up. Sweetness is sexy. I don't know, but so is mystery. Silence. And I think mystery... You're mysterious. Silence followed by a sigh. And you're considerate. She realizes something, no longer scared, stares at me straight on. And I think shy men are romantic. How many people in this world are like me? I ask again. Do I really appear like that? Patrick, she says, I wouldn't lie. No, of course you wouldn't, but I think that... My turn to sigh, contemplatively. I think... You know how they say no two snowflakes are ever alike? She nods. Well, I don't think that's true. I think a lot of snowflakes are alike, and I think a lot of people are alike too. She nods again, though I can tell she's very confused. Appearances can be deceiving, I admit carefully. No, she says, shaking her head, sure of herself for the first time. I don't think they are deceiving. They're not. Sometimes, Jean, I explain, the lines separating appearance, what you see, and reality, what you don't, become, well, blurred. That's not true, she insists. That's simply not true. Really, I ask, smiling. I didn't used to think so, she says. Maybe 10 years ago I didn't, but I do now. What do you mean? I ask, interested. You used to? A flood of reality. I get an odd feeling that this is a crucial moment in my life, and I'm startled by the suddenness of what I guess passes for an epiphany. There is nothing of value I can offer her. For the first time I see Jean as uninhibited. She seems stronger, less controllable, wanting to take me into a new and unfamiliar land. The dreaded uncertainty of a totally different world. I sense she wants to rearrange my life in a significant way. Her eyes tell me this, and though I see truth in them, I also know that one day, sometime very soon, she too will be locked in the rhythm of my insanity. All I have to do is keep silent about this and not bring it up. Yet she weakens me. It's almost as if she's making the decision about who I am. In my own stubborn, willful way, I can admit to feeling a pang, something tightening inside, and before I can stop it, I find myself almost dazzled and moved that I might have the capacity to accept, though not return, her love. I wonder if even now, right here in nowheres, she can see the darkening clouds behind my eyes lifting. And though the coldness I have always felt leaves me, the numbness doesn't, and probably never will. Thanks for watching.